Welcome back, everybody. I'm Stacy Graves with Edit Design House, and today we're walking you through how we transform houses into refined, livable, luxury homes using real edit projects. I'm super excited about this episode because the before and afters are going to stun you. One thing that I think can be a little bit scary is coming into a space and seeing only the space as it currently exists. We know, because we've done this over and over, that spaces have a ton of different potential. Your home has the opportunity to greet you with a nice warm hug, or it can be really sterile and boring, or it can be overwhelming and stressful. So we're excited to walk through some of these spaces and show you the real before and afters. And starting off, we're going to talk about some of the different things we inherited with each of these spaces. So number one, the original thing that we inherited on a lot of the spaces is just kind of like a builder grade finish. Now, I don't mean anything negative about it other than the fact that when you're building something like a spec home, you want to do really safe, predictable finishes to appeal for the widest audience possible. And I think that's a great platform if you're just going to come in and put your furniture in and live there. And I think a builder grade home is often plenty nice. However, if you want it to feel thoughtful and really, really well designed, we want to get away from those plain neutral finishes and get something with a little bit more character. So we love introducing built-ins with a little splash of color. We love introducing materials that are a little more thoughtful, a little more intentional. If you were building a spec home, you'd want to keep it super safe, nothing that anyone's super going to fall in love with, but also nothing that anyone's going to be really opposed to. So everything tends to be really safe and neutral. So a lot of the spaces we started off with were really safe and really neutral, and we love being able to kind of like test and try our clients' flavor and what their wants and wishes are, and being able to lean them into something that's a little bit more intentional, thoughtful, something with a little more personality, and what kind of jives and feels comfortable for them. As interior designers, I think sometimes people feel nervous because they think, I don't really want to go some direction that I'm not comfortable with. And we also don't want you to go a direction that you're not comfortable with. However, we like to see your inspiration and your thoughts of spaces that make you feel excited. And we love to help kind of push that boundary a little bit away from safety into something that kind of makes you feel something. And one thing we talk about a lot with our clients is, I'm going to show you this next concept, or I'm going to show you this next set of materials, and you're going to feel something. I want you to sit with yourself and analyze whether that's a good feeling or a bad feeling, right? If your first gut reaction when you see this thing is negative, like, oh, I can't stand that, we want to know. We don't get really emotional about it. Our goal is always to try and create something that you love. So if you feel a negative reaction when we show you that thing, we want to know about it so we can lean away from those things. But if you feel kind of like a bubbly, excited feeling about the thing that we're showing you, we also want to know that so we can really like lean more into that direction. Every once in a while, we'll do something special and you love it, but it makes you nervous. And so we like to keep it a little bit to a more confined space, like a powder bath, or maybe a special room or a special little moment in the house. But we want you to kind of analyze how you're feeling with those things when we're talking about design in detail with you. So rewind back over to some of the other things that we inherited in some of these before homes. We had a lot of closed off layouts. A lot of these spaces felt like kind of an apology of, hey, this is the last thing that was left over in the room. Maybe it's a small, cramped space. One thing especially with like a powder bathroom is that it's a teeny tiny space. And so sometimes that gets a lack of attention or detail in it because they think, well, it's a small space and you can't fit much in here. So there it is. We'll just keep everything really simple and plain and try and do the tiniest fixtures and the tiniest everything in there so that it doesn't take up too much space. We've actually found that the opposite is true. When you have a teeny tiny space, we love being able to do big patterns in there, interesting things, strong colors, dynamic textures, dynamic pieces, dynamic mirrors and lights and all of the things, right? The toilet still has to be in a powder bath, but we love a vanity that has a really great personality to it, even a little punch of color. We talk about the powder bath as a little bit of a jewel box, and we think that if you're going to do something punchy, that's a great space to do it because you're not seeing it all day, every day. And so we love that you get to just walk in and enjoy it. Once in a blue moon, your guests get to enjoy the powder bath. But that's one way of turning a plain house into a luxury home, is taking those times to be a little bit bold and brave. And a powder bath is a perfect space to be able to do one of those things. Okay, one of the next things that we inherited with a lot of these before spaces are just old, outdated cabinetry. One thing that we noticed in older homes that used to be the standard is that at a kitchen counter, you would have kind of a 36-inch counter, which is a really great working space. But something that they used to do in bathrooms is they would actually lower that down. It had a different like standard height. So a lot of times when you're walking into an older home that needs a remodel, you'll notice that the countertops are too low, especially in the bathrooms. So when we're doing a remodel, when we're working on getting your space redone, we like to bring up those countertops to a real height where you can wash your hands, wash your face, use the sink at an appropriate level. The other thing with outdated cabinetry is that finishes and profiles really hit a trend like late 80s, 90s, even the 50s and 60s and 70s. There were certain like vibes and certain ways of doing things that were just kind of the norm, and everybody did exactly that same thing. So you'll remember like red oak was everywhere for a while, and everyone who had red oak had the coolest house in town. And then there was a moment where red oak went away, and then you had the old house in town. So one thing we like to do now is being able to pick finishes and wood details and different things that you love just because you love them, whether they're on trend or not. We try and do things a little bit more safely, but think about like that little eyebrow arch that you used to see on like 80s and 90s cabinets. It's very like iconic, a certain moment in time. So when we walk into a space that we're needing to remodel for a client, that's one of those things that kind of has to go, because regardless of how you paint or refinish that cabinet, that little profile is always going to be there. So we love being able to update cabinetry. That's definitely going to turn kind of your old house that you bought into this new luxury home. One of the other things that we inherited on some of our remodel projects are really poor lighting. I think lighting has definitely come a long way. You used to have just like a really plain flush mount fixture on the ceiling, or maybe even like can lights or track lights we've seen a lot of over the years. We like to pull those out. Obviously they were trying to be functional, but nowadays we have so many options of beautiful accent lighting, and we love having really great layers of lighting. So in a kitchen, you might have a beautiful chandelier over the dining table. The kitchen may be filled mostly with can lights, but then you also get the opportunity to do a great pendant light over the island or something to create a little bit of better layering. So once we've assessed kind of the issues and challenges of an existing space, one big thing that we do is we go in and we have a conversation with the client about how they want to live and how they want to feel in the new space. Even though it's the same four walls, you might have kind of this feeling of like doom and gloom or overexcitement in an area, and maybe you want to feel calm instead, or maybe you want to feel like, hey, this is a nostalgic place where we're going to make memories. We love talking about colors and textures and styles with our clients, but before we ever do any of that, we talk about how do you want to feel in this space? Tell us how your life is going to flow. Do you like to entertain? Do you like to, in a bathroom, for instance, do you prefer a shower or a bath? A lot of different questions about how you want to use the space and what you want to feel like in the space. That helps drive a lot of those decisions that we're making down the road for you, making sure that they're not just aesthetic colors and textures like, hey, what's your favorite pattern? Hey, what's your favorite shape? We want to make sure that whatever we're suggesting is going along with how you want to feel and how you want to experience your space. So we've had a fun few projects lately where people have wanted to really feel kind of nostalgic or like a little bit back in time. So how do you create a brand new space that feels interesting and fresh and now, and at the same time feeling like this really cool like back in time memory? So those are all things that go into consideration when we're picking finishes for our clients and coming up with new designs for their new spaces. So some of the things that we really worked on is elevating the home. So a big thing that happens is we make layout adjustments. Kitchens especially, we walk in and the island's in the wrong spot, or there's that very classic like peninsula. Sometimes that is the only way to make a kitchen layout just because of the footprint of the house, but we've had a few instances where even in a space where it only seems like that's the opportunity, we're able to shift and adjust the center and the rotation of the kitchen to be able to accommodate an island where you can have more people sitting and standing and enjoying the kitchen space together. Sometimes we've had funny kind of highs and lows on the islands, and we've been able to level those out and make the spaces feel a lot more usable and a lot more collaborative. We've noticed that the kitchen very much is the center of the home, so you don't just want it functional, you also want it to be social and have a beautiful energy to it where people want to gather and people want to spend time. So touching on a few of the final elevated changes that we were able to make on these homes, a very big one is custom millwork. So we're not just talking kitchen cabinetry, we're also talking built-ins around a fireplace, trim work and detail. Perhaps it's on the ceiling, maybe it's on the walls. All of those different things are going to create additional layers of detail that make the room feel really luxury and a lot more like a house that kind of envelops you in coziness rather than just a house that you live in that was kind of an afterthought. So another thing is getting into some material upgrades. You'd be surprised that sometimes a material upgrade actually costs less than the previous material, but just having it be something that feels thoughtful and intentional, that's your own iconic style. We've had a few fireplaces, for instance, that were like red brick. That was the era of the house. Here it is. And there it will always be. You're just stuck with this red brick. We have a really cool space that we're able to add a beautiful mantle to and do a Roman clay treatment up across and over top of the brick. And this turned out to be a really stunning fireplace. And it has a teeny tiny nod to the original fireplace where the brick peeks out. That's one of our most unique and interesting fireplaces in the projects that we've done, because it would be hard to almost design it fresh that way. But because we worked with existing layers and played up how we want it to be, how we want it to look, and the vibe that we want it to carry, we're able to get a really unique and special spot in that home. The final note on turning a house into a luxury home is getting in and having some additional architectural details. So maybe that means adding crown molding or trim or a wainscoting to the home. Some of the other details can be really simple, but make a huge difference, like changing out the actual doors and hardware in the space or changing out window trims. They take a little bit of effort, but the difference that it makes is huge. I think often when people are doing a remodel to a space, they might think, oh, that's an untouchable layer. Maybe I don't get to touch the base and the case, or maybe I don't get to touch the doors and the handles of the house. Those are ones that actually are a pretty quick turnaround for the builder to work on, and they do make all the difference. And it's one of those little key details that when you're walking into a space that's newly done, you either feel like some of it was left back in time or everything was updated and fresh and beautiful. Thanks again for joining us on some before and afters of real life projects that we've been working on lately. We hope you enjoy the results, and we hope you have some tips to take into your everyday life. If not, feel free to reach out to us, enjoy our other portfolio pieces, and in the meantime, like and subscribe and join us again on Edit Design House. Have a good one.